Tight, tight, tight. Hey guys, what's up? And today I'm gonna do a review on the classic Vince Gilligan TV show, Breaking Bad's second season. Let's see what this season has in store for us. Last season, Walt had lung cancer, so he decided to cook meth with Jesse, and they ran into a couple of people who wants them dead, Crazy 8 and Emilio. Walt forcefully and uneasily dealt with both of them, and they still need someone to distribute their meth. So they got to Tuco, and Tuco is a violent, crazy psycho who gets mad at small things. The first episode is 737. Started off with the last scene in a no rough stuff type deal, and how Tuco came back to Walt and Jesse, because someone's dying. Anyways, tension heated up as Jesse panicked, and he actually bought a gun to defend himself, in case Tuco decided to kill him. And then Hank also found out about the stealing of a methylene barrel, and Tuco. Then Walt started to go paranoid with Jesse, and they both believed that Tuco actually wanted to kill them. And the truth is a blur until the last scene. It's completely silent, but it's such a shocking scene, and an amazing cliffhanger. Next is Episode 2, Grilled. The ultimate standoff between Tuco and basically everyone in the world except for Tio. It's as intense as it sounds. It's really well written. Surprises upon surprises, as we all bite our nails and hope nothing goes wrong. So basically, Tuco took Walt and Jesse to a distant place where they're supposed to discuss about moving to Mexico and do this meth business. But A, you can't just dump your family and everything else and move to another country just for cooking meth. B, Tuco had to go. If he stayed alive, he would eventually kill Walt and Jesse. So now it's more of a scenario of who's gonna make a move first. That's what makes this episode so intense, and I hope that Walt and Jesse didn't piss Tuco off by doing anything stupid. But when Tuco's mad, I was on the edge of my seat. And also, Walt's family was worried about Walt, of course, and they're beginning to investigate and dig into Walt, so it creates a suspense. It's a damn good episode, and I know it could have been the ending of Season 1, which would be nice, but it's even better to end off Season 1 with that scene. While this is more game-changing, it's the end of a chapter in Breaking Bad. Moving on to Episode 3, Bit by a Dead Bee. This episode is all about cleaning up the mess that took place last time. Hank was rewarded, Walt ended up in a hospital, Jesse got into some trouble as well. The most memorable scenes are the scene before the teaser, where Walt did something crazy in a supermarket. Not telling you what it is. And the scene where Tio was about to accuse Jesse at doing something, but he did something else instead. This episode is also quite family-focused and more on Walt's life. But of course, this show must go on, and they have to continue to cook. Nice episode, and there's not much to say about it. Over to Episode 4, Down. It would be cool if it's out, but it has to follow the pattern, where 4 episode titles putting together foreshadows a key moment in the show. This episode is also a family-focused episode, and how poor Jesse is when he's surviving without his money. Although it's still a boring episode, I was anticipating for more drama and a new way to do the meth business, new characters. But no, still nothing really happened. But the last few scenes are memorable, like Walt and Skylar's relationship worsens and Jesse trying to survive. We also learned about Jesse's old band, but all in all, I want more. Please, but it's still entertaining. Then it's Episode 5, Breakage, which hopefully is the last slow-burning, transitional, character-building episode. It's like this complicated but yet messy plot built after this Tuco incident, divided equally into 3 pieces, which is this and the 2 previous episodes. Although there are remarkable scenes here as well, like the introduction to the character of Jane, she plays a really important role in the show, and we have Hank traumatized after the intense event that took place not too long ago. Also, it's good to see Walt and Jesse work again, but this time in Jesse's way, which is selling meth little by little with Skinny Pete, Combo, and Badger. And now we have a new problem rising, which basically involved some old junkies who wanted to rob the meth dealer. And right next is the underrated Peekaboo. It's full of great moments, surprises, and lots of character development. Walt was used to be this cowardly old man, and Jesse was used to be this idiot junkie who doesn't care about anything but money, drugs, and women. But on this episode, Walt began to be meaner, and Jesse began to be more loving and kind. The whole episode is about Walt facing Gretchen. Skylar thought that Gretchen gave them the money, but it's actually Walt who did it, so there's the suspense. And after what happened last time, Jesse had to solve the problem by going to these two old junkies who had a mistreated child. The production design in this episode is great. The interior of Spooge's house is a mess. It's used cigarettes and glass shards, and whatever there is, it's all on the ground. And the scene where Walt and Gretchen had their final conversation, Bryan Cranston nailed it. I mean, seriously, Walt said something unexpected. Even more surprises. We have the last scene. The show gave us about 1.5 seconds to realize this surprise and be surprised. Although I already knew it's gonna happen because internet people. But still, it's really shocking and amazing how Jesse and this child develop such a relationship in just one episode. And how Jesse might be saved the kid. It is touching. This is a great episode, really underrated, and I really enjoy it. Moving on to episode 7, Negro y Azul, which means black and blue in Spanish. The teaser was basically 3 Mexicans singing about Heisenberg, aka Walt. And that's the entire teaser. So it's either genius or stupid. I think this is genius, but having the entire song played at the beginning is a bit annoying. But the story in this episode is quite good, in my opinion, and I really love how Jesse and Jane's relationship developed, and a new plotline began to form, like Skylar getting a new job, and the show introduced the new character, Ted. But the most shocking scene in this episode is the scene where, Hank was promoted to the new team of DEA agents, and this team is full of jerks. But Hank is saved when all his other teammates were injured in an insane incident, so I find the scene memorable. Then it's episode 8, Better Call Saul, which is a hell of an entertaining episode, with the new character Saul Goodman introduced. First, the teaser. Gosh, I love the teasers. What happened is both funny and surprising, and I really like it. So, basically, Badger was in trouble, and he needed a lawyer. And the lawyer is Saul Goodman. Bob Odenkirk did a wonderful job playing a colorful, smart, witty, funny lawyer. And then what Walt and Jesse did with Saul was even more interesting. So, Badger was in trouble and Saul had some tricks up his sleeves to save Badger. And that scene is really suspenseful in a fun way. Again, good job to the writers. They really wrote this episode well. Saul brought back the element of comedy to the show. This episode is one of the highlights of the season, and I really enjoy it overall. Next is episode 9, 4 Days Out, which is another great episode. This time, it's more dramatic and dreadful. It's arguably the best episode since Grilled. So Walt's lung cancer got worse, and he and Jesse must cook meth quicker. So they decided to go out in the wild for 2 days for cooking meth. So it's basically like camping. They packed a lot of water, a lot of food, and they prepared their equipments. It was a big thing, and indeed they made a lot of meth. I really like the scene where Walt and Jesse realized how much meth they made, and Jesse wanted to high-five Walt, and Walt hesitated at first, but later he high-fived Walt proudly. But later, the real problem comes in. I'm gonna give a spoiler alert. You can skip if you want. Jesse forgot to pull out the keys, so the RV ran out of power and they're stuck. They were helpless. They tried to call Skinny Pete for help, but it didn't work. They tried to artificially generate energy, but it but it didn't work too. Things got really dreadful and hopeless until Walt found a way to generate electricity using the chemicals in the RV, and somehow managed to power up the RV again. And I also like the memorable moment when Walt punched the box at the end. Over to episode 10, Over, where Walt became more irrational and angry, while Jesse and Jane's relationship continued to develop. I really liked the scene where Walt kept giving Walt Jr. alcohol. I didn't really get why did he do it at first, but now I know why, and he wanted to show Hank that he's the boss, he wears the pants. And I also enjoy the scenes where Jesse and Jane built trust through small conflicts. And the ending scene was great too. Walt had this badass moment confronting two strangers fearlessly. What an epic moment was that. This is more of a slow but satisfying episode. On to the next one, Mandela. The show really picked the pace back up again with some amazing scenes. So the story is basically Jesse started to lean towards Jane more than Walt and started to go down the drug path again. So Walt needed to partner up with a new guy. First, the teaser is another shocking teaser that I will never forget. Second, the new character of Gus Fring is introduced. He is a key character in the show, excellently played by Giancarlo Esposito. Saul Goodman brings back the element of comedy, while Gus Fring really brings back the element of drama. Third, again, the ending scene is intense and entertaining, solid writing, good music in the background. This episode is another good episode. This show is on a roll. Moving on to episode 12, Phoenix, which is, in my opinion, the best episode of the series so far. Oh my gosh. Both Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul's acting performance in this episode is impressive. The ending is one of the most shocking and heartbreaking endings of all times, and it's a great shame that I already knew what's gonna happen before I watched this episode, because, spoilers, I also really like the plot line of Jesse and Jane and how did they get in trouble, how did they deal with it. But because I care for your viewing experience, spoiler alert. I love the scene where Walt and Jane's dad met. It's a good scene where a character meets a character and they didn't know how related they actually are. But the last scene, oh my gosh. Walt broke into Jesse's place to find Jesse sleeping with Jane. Then Jane suddenly choked. Walt could have saved her. Walt could have done something, but instead he hesitantly let her die. And that's really cold and it's painful to watch. That scene is extremely well executed. It hit us in the heart and it will remain one of the most memorable scenes in television history. Last but not least, ABQ. The previous episode is the cause, and this is the consequence. After what happened last episode, everyone was changed, and the new character Mike was introduced, played by Jonathan Banks. This episode was not as suspenseful and climactic as the last one, but this one really stunned me. This one is the one that revealed all the answers in Season 2, so I'm giving a spoiler alert again. After Jane died, Jesse's heart was broken, and it really looked hopeless. Meanwhile, Skylar finally found out that Walt had been lying all along, so Walt lost Skylar's trust. Everything became so depressing and sorrowful. There seemed to be not much hope. And the final scene was epic. Jane's dad made 2 planes crash, and it was partially because of what Walt did last episode. Then the plane exploded. Walt stood up in his pink sweater. Then the pink teddy bear fell into the water. Then in that moment, not only was I shocked, I realized the meaning of the teddy bear, and it was brilliant. With a beautifully written finale, this season wrapped up really nicely and amazingly. That leaves the audience in silence. Overall, this season is even better than Season 1. A lot of new characters are introduced. A couple of characters were killed, and it has once again set a qualifying standard to all TV shows. This season sank deep into the plot and into the characters individually. It's really human, really realistic, And this season had the most impressive mix of comedy and drama, which made this season even more special. I find this season quite underrated because it was full of highlights and breathtaking moments. Bryan Cranston, Aaron Paul, Bob Odenkirk, and Giancarlo Esposito delivered a solid performance. At last, the worst episode is episode 4, Down, and the best is episode 12, Phoenix. I'm saying Breaking Bad Season 2 is mind-blowing, and I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. So, have you watched Breaking Bad Season 2? From 1 to 10, how much would you rate it? Like if you like, and subscribe if you want more.
I want you to handle it.